Scheduled Plan Commission meeting to order for the Village of Tinley Park. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Lori, if you can please take the roll call.
Commissioner Gaskell?
Here.
Commissioner Gatto? Commissioner Lasciuto?
Here.
Commissioner Manny?
Here.
Commissioner Merrick? Commissioner Shaw?
Present.
Commissioner Truxell?
Here.
Chairman Gray?
Present. Okay, a quorum is present. We'll move on to communications. Staff, are there any communications at this time?
I'll just note Chairman Gray is going to be stepping down for the first item since he's done work for McDonald's in the past, so he's recusing himself from that. And Commissioner Shaw will temporarily take his place for that item. So that's all I have.
Okay, excellent. So move on to approval of the meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 7th, 2022 regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting?
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Truxell, seconded by Commissioner Lasciuto. All those in favor of approving the April 7th, 2022 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. We'll move on to item 1, but at this point, I will recuse myself from presiding and voting because, as Dan said, McDonald's USA LL is a client for the company I work for. So I'll turn it over to Commissioner Acting Chair Shaw.
Thank you, sir. Is there a public notice here?
It's right in the front.
Okay, sorry for the delay there. I have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this, item number 1 is a public hearing, McDonald's wall sign addition at 15920 Harlem Avenue, a special use for substantial deviation. And I have confirmed that public notice has been given. And we are ready to proceed with the staff report.
Thanks, Acting Chairman. Fairly simple request here. They're asking for one more wall sign than what they were previously permitted. So I'm not going to go through the whole history on this. The staff report from the 2018 approval for this McDonald's was in your packets. But it basically in 2018, they received approval for kind of the redevelopment of the property and the site and the building. There was a little bit of delay on that. One first was just kind of construction and timing, and then obviously COVID happened. So it was just completed last year, and we're excited that that was completed. Overall, the site's well improved, and then the building's a lot more updated as well. As you can see here, kind of what they had completed. They had, through that redevelopment process, received approval for up to 6 wall signs, and that exceeds the amount that our zoning code would allow for, which it only allows for 1 per elevation. So the maximum would be 4 and 1 on each elevation. But then we have another regulation, which is the maximum size of what that sign is. Their proposal was really for more signage, but smaller signage. So they didn't go over the total maximum that would be allowed, but they kind of did more number of wall signs that really were kind of fit in with the architecture better. Instead of having kind of one larger sign, they wanted to break it up. So now they're looking to basically add 1 more sign in addition to that. So out of those 6, only 5 were installed as part of the construction phasing. The one on the south side, I believe, was not installed, so there's only one there. That one they could put the second, they're going to be adding 2 signs. The one they could put up today, kind of by right with that approval, but they're asking for one additional one, which is primarily to allow either the one on the south side or the one on the west side they're trying to add. And it's really to bring some brand identity to the building. It is more modern, it's a little nicer and newer, but it doesn't necessarily scream McDonald's and I have a play place in here anymore. So they were just kind of looking to add a logo to that south side and then to the west side. Customers kind of approach this from all sides. So whether you're on 159th Street or within the shopping center, they want someone to be able to see there's the McDonald's, I can drive to it. And they would still remain under that maximum allowable square footage. So that's kind of the sell is there is a higher number, but they're still keeping that overall signage within the maximum allowable. So that's really it. So I'll give it back to you guys, the petitioners here as well, if you have any questions.
Okay, petitioners here for McDonald's. Good evening. You're not required to speak. You have the option to if you would like to, and if any of the commissioners have questions. If you do speak, though, I'll have to swear you in.
I don't care. I'm here to answer questions.
Yeah, that's,
He covered it pretty much everything.
yeah. So, so we don't have to go through it, why don't you just hold tight, and
Okay.
if there's questions that you need to address, then we'll call you up and swear you in. No big deal. So let's go ahead and hop into it. We'll start down at this end. Commissioner Lucio.
No comment.
All right, Commissioner Gaskell, any questions or comments on it?
Nothing from me.
All right, Commissioner Truxell?
No comments. I think it's appropriate. And it does, when I look at the existing, I think it's the south side, you don't even see a McDonald's sign on it today. It just says Play Place, so it makes total sense to me.
All right, Commissioner Manning?
No, I agree, I like it, what's being proposed, the signage, number or square footage, what's allowed, I think it's great, it's not, obnoxious, it's perfect, so, those are my comments.
All right, good deal. Well, boy, I'd really like to make this hard for you and have all sorts of questions and comments, but I'm with the rest of the commissioners here. It seems reasonable based on the previous approvals, seems appropriate. Have driven by and looked at it in context. Seems tasteful. So I'm good on that point. And if you have any other comments, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we'll entertain comments from the public. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this? Okay, hearing none. Any last words? Dan?
No,
Anything else?
just thanks to the petitioner for working with us. He's a franchisee with McDonald's, so
Great.
got us everything we needed, and
Okay,
glad to see the project completed.
excellent. Yeah, I hate to seem like this is just whipping through, but sometimes they are that easy and, pretty straightforward. So with that, I would like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Move Commissioner Manny, second Commissioner Truxell. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. We can move forward. You covered the standards in the report and in your presentation. We don't have to go through them verbatim. If you want to do a quick summary.
Yeah, no, it's an existing building, existing utilities, and it's really just the signage to really help them advertise it and keeping within the confines of the size limit still. So that's kind of the gist of the findings there. But they're in the PowerPoint and they're in the staff report.
Yep. So for the purposes of this, we'll proceed with the assumption that the commissioners have looked at the standards and hearing no comments on it. I will entertain a motion on this matter.
I make a motion to recommend that the village board grant the petitioner Darren Freyhage on behalf of McDonald's USA LLC, a special use permit for a substantial deviation from the Park Center PUD with an exception from the zoning ordinance to permit a total of 7 wall signs on the building facades at 15920 Harlem Avenue in the B3 PD zoning district, in accordance with the plan submitted and adopt findings of facts as proposed by the village staff in the April 21, 2022 staff report.
Second.
Move Commissioner Manny, second Commissioner Lucido. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, call for a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucido?
Yes.
Commissioner Manny?
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Acting Chair Shaw. Commissioner Truxell?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much for your time. Can we get next steps? for
Yeah,
them?
May 3rd, it goes to village board, so, I'm sorry about my mix-up. Tuesday, that'll be the village board meeting. Typically with the unanimous recommendation, they don't have a lot of questions, there won't be a presentation, it'll move fairly quick. If you
Just
can't
one,
make it,
one
let us know as
reading?
well, and that we can make it.
Dan? So just one meeting?
Yes,
All right.
Yep.
Good deal.
so I'll be in contact if you have any other questions, just let me know there. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw, for pinch hitting there. We'll move on to item 2 on tonight's agenda. Item 2 is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Paul Spass, on behalf of Primal Cut, the tenant, variations from section X11, the Legacy Code, of the zoning code to allow for a one-story building addition which does not comply with the requirements of minimum building height, building materials, and architectural guidelines located at 17344 Oak Park Avenue in the Legacy DC Downtown Core zoning district. Site plan and architectural approval is also being requested. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
So I heard a motion made by Commissioner Shaw, seconded by Commissioner Manny. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I have received certification that the public hearing was published in the newspaper. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak, but after the staff's presentation. So staff, if you could please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Gray. So the site of the Primal Cut Restaurant is downtown Oak Park Avenue, across from the train station between 173rd and Hickory. Highly visible spot. It's a fairly successful establishment here in Tinley Park. It is located actually in a historic building, though, dating back to, I believe, 1868, part of the Andres Block development. And in 1998, it went through an extensive renovation to the inside and outside before it had opened at that time as Bogart's Char House. So the space itself has gone through a number of different uses over the years. So in that renovation, the exterior was restored close to early 1900s appearance with guidance from the village's historic commission at that time. So you can see at the lower right what it looked like back then. The upper right, that's as we see it today. So there is a front patio, and the petitioner wishes to enclose it. So the patio has a black and white awning over the space. So for zoning, this is in the Legacy Downtown Core District, and it's fairly similar in the context of the area to the north and south, zoned the same. And to the east and west is part of the Legacy District's civic sub-area. And we have some residential up to the northwest on 68th Court. Also to note, as with some of the other properties, At some point in the past, it was discovered that part of it, the patio, it does encroach into the right-of-way. So at this time, the applicant will also be seeking a new encroachment agreement with the village into the right-of-way. On the lower right, you can see an outline in red of the extent of that front patio in relation to the building. And so for the proposed use, it is simply to enclose this existing front patio. The applicant wishes to provide more dining on more days of the year. The space will, by code, fit approximately 19 patrons. It already is used as a patio, but by enclosing it, it allows for more seasonal opportunities. In the summer, the windows can open, they're proposed as operable windows, or they can remain closed. So it needs to come here for the site plan and architectural approval, as well as 3 variations. These variations are from the legacy code, not something that we typically deal with, so I'll just try to run through these in order. So one is regarding the building materials. So in the legacy code, there is a minimum of 75% should be listed, it should be composed of what they consider primary materials. And secondly, there's a section on architectural guidelines. It talks about how new construction should be consistent in style with the surrounding context. So the architectural composition should complement what's around it. And then thirdly, regarding minimum building height. So per this section, per this area in the zoning code in the downtown core, the minimum building height is actually 3 stories. So it's quite a bit high. So these are the 3 variations. And here you can see what the existing conditions are. So the sidewalk, the sidewalk, from the face of this low brick wall to the curb is almost 8 feet, 7'8", and there's a planter box. The patio is raised, so there's this wall, as noted in the staff report, it's a little over 3 feet. The applicant is not proposing to make any changes to that wall. The patio, as it exists, is just raised on top of that, and so he simply wishes to enclose that. So for the first open item, we just, was noted in the planter box, was also noted in the rendering, so we just want to clear up, any discrepancy on that not being a proposed element of the plans. The architectural line drawings did not show a planter box. And so here is the proposed rendering of it. So again, the architectural drawings don't show a planter box that you see with the plantings there. The materials are proposed as a standing seam metal roof, colored in black, with steel columns that run down the height of the space. There, along the height of the space, are proposed operable telescoping windows, and then below that would be a glass guardrail assembly system with railings and balusters, and then that's where the floor of the patio enclosure would be, and then below that is this brick wall that then carries down to the sidewalk level. And that, again, that brick veneer base in the wall, it's proposed to remain. The encasing of all of this is, we're understanding it is, we believe it to be glass on the front and sides. We do need clarification on that. The architectural drawings simply note that it's paneling, storefront paneling on the north and south sides. So we've left this as an open item with staff recommendation that a clear dual glazed storefront system closely matching the east elevation go into place, and a condition on the material to be approved by staff. Here are a couple of the images as was included in the packet. So on top is the floor plan. So you can see that the patio, it's a little over almost 33 feet. long by 6'9" deep, and that's the interior space. The brick wall does extend out about 11 inches further, but again, that's not changing. And then the lower image, you can see how the proposal is, with a couple of the steel columns and, these, as it's proposed, 2 sets of 6 on the facade. And then here is a section, and you can see here that, again, going from sidewalk level up is the brick face, the guardrail, and the operable windows. And the applicant provided the model number. This is a popular system, company called Nanowall. They do a lot of these operable window and door systems. So it's like, when I say telescoping, it basically runs along a track. The model number, as the applicant provided, does show it going exterior out. So for village building code purposes, we do need to have a minimum headroom that people going along the sidewalk would not run into a conflict with. So, as you can see in the section I just noted, required minimum headroom. And so we'd want to not have the projection of the windows be in conflict with that. And so for the windows, and the 2 elements of that is the projection and the headroom, how far it goes out, and again, how high it is off the ground. So the drawings don't necessarily indicate some of these things I've been saying about it. How far the windows will project out. Village staff calculated based off of the width and quantity of the panes on this. So we understand it would encroach a little bit further, but the encroachment could be reduced if number of panes were increased. So Nanowall is a system that they have many different sizes as well as configurations. So it leads to the next open item, that staff recommends a condition that the bottom of the projecting edge of the window system to the finished grade be at least 7 feet for building code. And then these are the variations in detail. So the legacy code requirements of 75% minimum materials on all facades and roofs, excluding the glazing, shall be any of these following materials: brick, stone, fiber cement, cedar, slate, asphalt, shingles, copper, or stainless steel. So when you exclude the glazing, we have this standing seam metal roof that is kicking the percentage for a variation. And then just to also note with the code, there's a maximum of 25% of these materials, one of which is the standing seam. The second variation on architectural guidelines states that a consistent style of architectural composition shall be applied throughout the structure. A mix of styles is discouraged. You can see here the existing streetscape. It's a varied, historic type of streetscape. The proposal doesn't really match the existing building, but it does function the windows will make it very transparent, and it's not like typical visually heavy addition, right? We also have the band of the brick veneer wall that is proposed to remain. So these are some of the considerations, is all were noted in the staff report. Again, it is a modern type of look, but this is typical in downtowns. It is a transparent feel. It's something that is it's operable in the summer, in the winter. It would add to get the customer's experience. It's an existing footprint. It's not extending beyond what already is being used by a patio in the warmer months. So, the one thing was that the scope was to just identified to enclose the existing patio, but there is this area that's to the north of it, the stairway that leads up from street level. So that open item, we would just need to state that any structure or awning over that northern raised stairwell be subject to review and approval by village staff. And then lastly is the variation on building height. So the proposed is a one-story. It has a slightly sloping roof with the peak aligning and adjacent to the existing wall. 10 foot 10, one story, so code requires a minimum of 3. That does not seem to be appropriate in this case because the other buildings are 2 stories. There's also a bay window on the second story above where this is. So, you know, it's also similar profile to what we already have as the awning that's there. So this last item is to discuss the variation requests for the additions, materials, height, and design to the structure. These are the open items in summary, and that concludes the report. I have the standards here. Paul Spass, our applicant's also here in the audience.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. Paul, do you have anything to add? If you do, when you approach the lectern, I'll swear you in. But for now, I'll go to comments from the commission. Commissioner Truxell, any comments for discussion?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be nice looking, I have to agree with that. I like the roof, I like all the glass, it looks nice. The awning would go, which is probably an improvement, not nothing against it, but step in the right direction. So my one concern, I think, is what the staff already pointed out, that the way the windows may project out when they're collapsed, that was the only thing that kind of stuck out for me, so that's it at this point for me. Not to hold it back, Rain, I just think we need to follow up on that.
Okay. Excellent.
And we had our building official reached out to Paul, right?
Yeah, I spoke with him.
So we have it conditioned, but I think they're working on a solution there that'll meet the building
Okay.
code.
He told me that it had to be 84 inches.
So we'll work on a solution there, so that's why those conditions are in there, though.
Right.
Just because we do have some stuff to clean up, but it'll largely.
Yeah, other than that, I had nothing else to comment on.
And just to piggyback on that, because like one of the things is, since, as Lori mentioned, it goes outward onto that public, that sidewalk in the public right of way. You know, if somebody's walking along, somebody's opening it up, they don't wash, you can get hit in the body or whatnot. So I think there's a safety issue with that as well, but, I think the staff report had 19 inches or something, and you want to try to reduce that with more paneling, I guess?
Yeah, well,
So-
there'll be they'll have a couple options they can do to kind of meet the minimum building code clearance heights. But then they'll also have to make sure this is okay from an encroachment agreement perspective too. So Kimberly, our director, is kind of coordinating that, is gonna make sure that covers everything as well. But from a building code perspective, it's just, can we get that 7-foot clearance? They could raise the panels and raise that up. They could have them open inwards. There's a chance if you add more bends, that could work. So there's a couple options we have that we'll work with the petitioner on.
Okay, fair enough.
But we just wanted to make it pointed out that we saw something that may change this slightly. So we just want to make sure.
And it's conditional, I see that in there. so-
Yeah, so it'll all be fixed with the building plan side of it.
Okay, excellent. Commissioner Manny?
Yes, that's my concern as well, I concur with the commissioners and the chair. You know, try to reduce their projection, or even, I don't know if the idea was, if they opened inward, how does that affect, seating and such? But yes, we need to, reduce that projection, for, obviously for safety, life safety concerns. That's all I had.
Excellent. Commissioner Shaw?
So I don't want to repeat anything the other commissioners have already said about the projection. It's been covered, and I know they're working on it. I just did want to state for the record that I recognize that as a concern as well. But it's going to be worked out, sounds like. So I'll just say I agree. I do think it's an attractive addition, so that's good in terms of being a more permanent structure as opposed to the canopy. A couple of points here, and I guess I would say I disagree with the language in the legacy code itself, which would make me lean towards granting recommending approval of variance. One of them is the language, and I went back to look at this myself, but the preference for consistent versus a mix. And I guess I never noticed that in the legacy code itself. I mean, I personally, I disagree with that because it seems to me almost like the opposite of what we're trying to achieve in rebuilding a downtown. A mix of styles mimics a traditional development style more so than having a cookie cutter face. If you look at a lot of the downtowns that you see sometimes where they try to achieve that, make it look like it was developed over time, that's what they do, is they mix it, not always successfully. So, for that matter, I do actually like that it's a mix. It gives it some character. I may have missed it, but the percentage of variance for the standing seam versus the masonry requirement, how far off were we on it?
We don't have so we didn't get plans with the specific percentages.
Okay, but
It
just-
was just clear it was
just
not
visibly
gonna
it-
meet the
it does-
exact
okay.
percentage, so we don't have an exact percentage, but it'll be based on these plans.
Okay.
That they'd have to meet.
So what I would say, just again, in giving you a sense of where some of the commissioners stand, for me personally, I like the standing seam look. It may be overwhelming in terms of being too much of a variance from the requirement. So wherever you guys land on that, I do think it's too much if it could be broken up or punched up or somehow, but, from my standpoint, I'm not looking to be adhere to the exact percentage of the code necessarily.
And a lot of that, I'll say all three of those variations we're not picturing this situation with a patio in the front. They're picturing a maybe more permanent solid addition, I think was the intent behind those. We can't really get around that this is a building addition still, right? It's got 3 walls, a roof. It is a building addition, but I think it's a very different situation with it being in front. So I think that's why when you kind of look at those codes, go, this isn't necessarily bad, but it doesn't meet that. I think just the intent behind those was a building addition off the side of this. You'd want it to kind of blend, you'd want it to look like it belongs, not maybe a patio in front where you're doing a lot of glass. So
Yeah.
I think that's why these have kind of come up, is this wasn't really pictured as the.
Yeah, I agree, and perhaps it's just semantics, it's the language of the code, and I know if according to the precise language of the code, we're gonna have a difference, then we have to technically make sure that we have a variance for it. I would almost say that while this isn't consistent with the style, it's a nice contrast to the style. So, as opposed to just some random mix of style. And in a similar, for the 3-story variance, that kind of, it's obvious.
Right.
We're gonna make them put a 3-story, no.
Yeah, the goal is like, okay, if you're gonna put in a pretty big addition on the back of this thing, you'd want it to meet what the overall code is kind of going for a redevelopment process, but you're not gonna build a 3-story just patio in the front, right? So it's a little odd that it's just a small space in the front. You're not gonna do that. But
And to illustrate that point, to my mind, if the proposal was coming in with a 3-story front sidewalk addition, while it might meet the code, it's not in keeping with the character of the block,
Yeah.
so.
We have a really historic building here that I think we don't want. The one good thing about this is, yes, it's an addition on the front, but it still keeps it open. It could be taken down, and the whole integrity of that building is still there. So if you look at it from a historic preservation perspective, which I do sometimes, you're keeping that, you're not decimating this building or something where it can't go backwards toward
Yeah,
what the.
That was a
real building-
consideration for me, is that the character of having the open air seating it retains that character, at least as far as I can tell from the design, when it is open. Yet it still achieves their goal of trying to enclose it. So I do like that, and to your point, I like that it doesn't alter the essential character of the building itself. So I guess that was a long way around to saying that I'm good with it, I like it, once all the details are worked out.
Yeah, no, excellent, excellent comments, Commissioner Shaw. Commissioner Gaskell.
How wide is that area that's being enclosed? I mean, how much of the concrete surface does it cover up on top there?
32 feet, 10 inches.
No, projecting out towards the street.
Oh, like depth.
Oh,
the width.
6'9".
How much?
6'9".
And how big are the window panes, the glass windows that would be opening and closing?
I think they were about 26 inches. Basically, the way we did the building official did the calculations was on this front facade, the 32'10", there are 2 sets of 6. So we divided that number, and then it wasn't so much the width of the panes we were focused on. We wanted to see how much of that would project out. So the projection out from the face of the brick below would be 19 inches. I don't have the, like I said, I don't have the exact number.
So it's
Off the top of
about
my head, maybe it was
6'9" from the building, and then about 19 inches more from that. You'd have the windows, based on how they're designed right now.
So,
Not quite. 6'9" plus, I think about 10.5 inches from the face of the windows to where that brick face is. And then from that brick face, about 19 inches.
so the, what did you say, 6'9", the thing projects out? So beyond that is actual public walkway?
Correct.
Uh,
So it's a little weird,
little
actually,
over
some
7
of this patio is in the public right-of-way, so that's why we have that existing encroachment agreement. We didn't dig into the full history of how these were built and why they were built, and they're there and they're used by the businesses. So it's just, there's a couple feet there that is the right-of-way, but then beyond that is obviously existing walkway. So both the structure itself will be in the right-of-way, but then there's also additional walkway beyond.
But you have the sidewalk down below.
Yes, yep.
And there's, in front of this building, there isn't or never was an entrance in front of the building. So what's the purpose of that walkway up on top?
I think it was always kind of like a patio or some,
Well, whatever, but the point is there's no need to have it a public walkway. There's no place to go.
Are you referring to the sidewalk street level?
Upside, no, the upside walkway. We're worried about the windows encroaching on that public walkway, and I'm wondering why that's even a public walkway, because it doesn't take you anywhere. You can't
well,
get
no,
into
it's encroaching over the sidewalk that's next to it further.
So here in the existing, that the red pavers, you see the vertical low brick wall? If you go in a line straight out from there, it's about 19 inches, what with the current proposal would go out into.
I think we're talking about two different things. I'm talking about this walkway next to the stairs here that takes you up to that walkway that goes across the front of the building south of here. But there's also that walkway that goes across the front of Primal Cut. And I'm asking why, because it has no use for that.
Isn't that what they're looking to enclose?
Yeah, I think that's the patio that they're
So
talking
that
about.
front, that area that's elevated, that's what's used as patios.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
It's
So
all
that's,
enclosed.
it's just staying a patio, being enclosed, it's not being used as a public.
So the windows would be swinging out over the lower sidewalk, is
Yes.
basically what we're talking about. Oh,
Yeah, correct.
now I got it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's all I,
And that's been raised and in that right of way, when I was a kid, and it was Bentonhausen Hardware, and I'd go there, you go up those stairs, so it wasn't used for a patio then, but it's still, so it dates back for quite a few, over 30 years,
But
encroaching into that right of way.
excuse me, but Bettenhausen Hardware had the entrance in the front.
That's true too. They have an entrance to although I guess that's not, it used to be the former ice cream spot that they bought as the addition, I believe, but, yeah, that doesn't lead anywhere, it's enclosed, that is
Right.
true, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird, I don't know the history of it. It kind of was a public walk, but we still have the sidewalk down below. It's obviously adjacent to those businesses, and now, there used to be like 3 or 4 up there, right?
Yeah.
And now there's really only 2.
Right.
So you kind of have the 2 main entrances for those, and this doesn't really serve a purpose other than a patio for those restaurants. So that's why we're moving forward with that encroachment agreement too. 'Cause
Gotcha.
it is in the right of way, but it's only serving this purpose. On the other hand, there are really close utilities and everything to that wall, so there is a chance we may need to get into that right of way area at some point. Then we also want to be protected at a liability standpoint with that being in the right of way. So that's everything that's being encompassed in that encroachment agreement. But that'll be under the board's purview to say, yes, you can put a structure on our property.
Okay, any more comments, Commissioner?
Nothing for me.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Lucido?
Yeah, I agree with my fellow commissioners. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the one thing that I did notice is, and to get with the engineers, is make sure you don't have any of the windows protruding near where that lamp post is, because you're already cut off, so to make sure that wherever openings you're gonna have doesn't protrude out by the lamp post. But that's my only additional comment with regards to that.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, because you'll have like a pinch point where you have less sidewalk to kind of navigate.
Right,
That's
and
a
you
good
don't want
point.
people walking in the street to get around it then.
No,
so.
definitely not. Okay, I have just a few comments. A lot of stuff was said. I echo a lot of those. Commissioner Shaw did a good job on open item 5. And I 100% agree. The height, it shouldn't be 3 feet, right? As you mentioned, Dan, this is kind of a special, unusual case. It's not really a building addition per se. And so therefore, some of the strict code maybe doesn't totally fit into place here. And then again, as you mentioned, everything's subject to review and approval by the village engineer. So, and the building looks attractive and clean. And I like the fact that it can be universally used, whether it's in winter conditions or summer conditions. I do have a few questions, but I guess they're related to what Lori mentioned in the staff report and her presentation today, is that some of the drawings need to be clarified. So I saw the stylized drawing showed those planters, but if you have a nano wall there, it doesn't sound like you'd be able to do that physically. But I'm sure that's subject to the plan review. One question I have is, because the walls, and they only go, 6 feet 9 inches, or just under 7 feet on the north and south, are those going to be nano walls that can open to let air go in the north-south direction? Or are those are always gonna be contained then?
That was not specified on the drawings. The drawings just said panels. So that was one of our open items for clarification. Staff would prefer to see it as clear, double glazed, fixed. We can have the applicant.
Is there any sort of egress concern on there, if they're fixed?
Not identified by our building official, no.
Okay. Okay, well, those are all my comments. It does look clean, and it's a good idea. It sounds like there's still some things that need to be clarified with, and finalized with the village engineer. With that said, does the petitioner have any comments at this time?
Yeah.
And Paul, please approach the lectern, I'll swear you in. Okay, state your name for the record.
Paul Spass.
Paul, do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please proceed.
So in regards to the percentage of materials used for the legacy code, one thing that I wouldn't be opposed to doing is doing that bottom portion in the brick to I know a lot of this is all metal and glass. You know, with the windows, again, the whole idea for this purpose is, you know, our patios being able to be used maybe 45 days out of the year, you know, and we've really, really grown. I mean, last year, you know, knock on wood, we've doubled our sales, and it's just, we're kind of run out of space. So by enclosing this front space, not only does it, you know, give us the opportunity to, you know, have more seating, it gives us the opportunity to really utilize, you know, the patio for what it is, but yet, you know, during the climates, which has been the struggle, it's either too hot, it's too cold, it's windy, it's raining, you know, and, you know, I'll be able to determine whether or not we open them windows, you know, on seasonal weather, you know, and, you know, our customers determine that as well. So, you know, it's a great fit, I think, for everybody. I think it's a great look for the downtown area. I'm trying to keep in some of the consistencies of the black storefront glass, but really not losing the whole sight of what it is. And that particular space there, to me, is going to be utilized as much as possible, weather permitting, you know, to give yourself that outdoor dining experience, you know, as much as possible. But yet, when it's not climate related and we can't, you know, Mother Nature isn't working with us, we can still have that same look in the downtown area and be right up front. And, you know, there's many good views, and we'll probably use that, you know, as also a little private event space too. If, you know, we still have those existing overhead doors that are in that space. So if we want to, we'll be able to keep those open. And then if we want to use it for private event space, we can simply close them down. So really nothing that's existing right now is going to be removed except for the awning. And my only thought was, you know, talking about the percentages of material being used. You know, in the plans here, you know, the architect has panels, black panels in the front, and I wouldn't be opposed to, you know, making a change to just doing that in the brick, the face brick, to match the front. So it's, you know, the bottom 4 feet is, you know, if you look at the drawings, the patio's raised up about 3 feet in brick, and just basically continuing that to the window's ledge. And I spoke with the building engineer today prior to this meeting, and his biggest thing was to make sure we stay within 84 inches, 7 feet, which is to the bottom of the windows from the existing walkway, the public walkway. And as long as we stay within that, we shouldn't have any problem. There's not too many 7-foot people walking around.
Right.
So obviously, we're going to make sure if we have to make some adjustments to that height level of the sill of the window, it'll probably be over 84 inches. So it's not going to become an issue whatsoever as far as the minimum height restrictions he was talking about today. So if people are walking underneath the window, they're not going to hit their head. So.
Okay, excellent, Paul. And it's good to hear that your business is booming, especially in these times. That's good.
You know, it's a lot of hard work, but you know, it's been rewarding not only for me but for the town, and you know, I appreciate having the opportunity to, you know, bringing back the old tradition of, you know, the steakhouse here with Bogart's. A little different feel, a little different product, but you know, with that being said, I mean, we also have some other, actually 3 sets of drawings with renderings that are actually already completely done. It's just a matter of the phases that we do them in. So this particular phase will match the next phase, which would be doing a rooftop over the corner unit, where you see that triangle there. So these glass windows actually mimic the same thing upstairs, but that's a future project. But we already have plans that have been submitted and approved. It's just a matter of me pulling the trigger on those. So I'm just going to kind of do this in phases that best suit, you know, me financially, to you know, maximize the space. And then the next step we're going to be doing in a couple of years is a big outdoor patio in the back. So you know, I think it's a great corner. I think we draw a lot of attention, and with these renderings, I took a lot of it within myself. I do a lot of design, so you know, using these systems and that we put into place really does what I think a downtown area, you know, people go downtown, they want to kind of somewhat sit outside, be open air, you know, but within the limited space that we do have, I think it kind of fits everyone's needs, so.
Okay. Well, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, very good.
Yep.
I would maybe, I know you're bringing up maybe raising up the brick and stuff. I guess for simplicity's sake, since that's not before us today, I think it's just easier to approve that.
Sure.
Plus, then you start going, you have a 7-foot wall, the brick wall, and it's probably gonna be hard to match that
Yeah.
brick, right? So honestly, this is, even though that would, again, probably get us closer to meeting the exact code requirements from a design perspective, the panels are probably a better choice. So, just my
Yeah.
2 cents.
Yeah, very good. Just an option, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll ask if there's anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item. Okay, seeing none. And does the commission have anything else to add? Okay, seeing none. Could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Lasciuto. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. Staff, if you can present the standards at this time.
Thank you. So for standards I have up here, first, they're for variations. Variations talk about whether the property could yield a reasonable return. This one can, but the additions within the same footprint not being completed for property return purposes. 2, regarding unique circumstances. This is not a typical addition. It's in a spatially constrained area, and a 1-story addition seems to be more appropriate than a 3-story. Number 3, about essential character. It's within appropriate scale to the surrounding context, maintains a feel of transparency. Glass is typical. Storefront systems are typical in downtowns. And the colors and materials appear to complement the existing streetscape. Brick veneer base will remain. And then this is the 4th standard that has further details that don't require findings. Then next is the legacy code standards. So for that, we note that the addition provides dining on more days of the year, provides a better dining experience for customers. And again, with the glass and transparency and the veneer base, all of this is appropriate to the development. Thirdly, architectural standards. This type of addition is not typical. It's less intrusive to the architectural integrity of the existing building frontages and could more easily be removed than a typical building addition. So it's on an existing footprint. Lastly, the improvement will have the effect of enhancing economic development. So this will do that. It will help the success of the existing business. And then these are a 1-page summary of the standards for site plan architectural approval. And these are the details for those, noted in the staff report. And then lastly, for recommended motion, I have variations. Up first is one motion, and then second is site plan architecture.
Okay.
And really quick, to help you guys reading those, if you want to instead of reading the conditions, if you want to just reference the conditions as noted in the staff report, instead of reading especially the second one.
Has anything changed since the staff report?
No. So what's on the screen is the same in the staff report. And assuming you guys don't want to make any changes, you could just reference the conditions as noted in the staff report as kind of that last line.
Okay.
And you're confident that the things we discuss are encompassed within the staff review conditions that we have here?
Yeah.
Okay, at this time, I'll, may have a motion number 1 on variations regarding this item.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend that the village board grant the petitioner, Paul Spass, on behalf of Primal Cut at 17344 Oak Park Avenue in the Legacy Downtown Core DC zoning district, 3 variations from Section 12 Legacy Code of the Village Zoning Ordinance for the building materials, architectural design guidelines, and minimum building height as listed and according to the submitted plans, and adopt the findings of fact as listed in the April 21st, 2022 staff report with the following conditions. These are easy, so I'll read them. There must be executed an active right-of-way encroachment agreement in place with the village. If the right-of-way encroachment agreement expires and becomes defaulted, the variation becomes void. Number two, all plans are subject to final staff review with the building permit for building code compliance and public safety review.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Shaw, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Gloria may have a roll call.
Commissioner Gaskell,
Yes.
Commissioner Lasciuto,
Yes.
Commissioner Manny,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Truxell,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. At this time, I have a motion number 2, regarding site plan and architectural approval.
I make a motion to grant the petitioner Paul Spass on behalf of Primal Cut site plan and architectural approval for a front patio enclosure at 17344 Oak Park Avenue in the Legacy Downtown Core, DC's zoning district, in accordance with the plan submitted and adopt findings of fact as proposed in April 21st, 2022 staff report, subject to the following conditions, which are, I'm going to reference the staff report. We've agreed that the conditions are current as noted in the staff report.
Okay, excellent. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Truxell, seconded by Commissioner Manny. Lori, can I have a?
Mr. Chairman, I just a comment here. I don't know if this was referenced before, and going back through the staff report again, the motion as listed in the staff report, motion number 2, I think is incorrect.
I agree.
The motion itself, but I think the conditions
Are,
are accurate.
yes. So the motion refers to the cannabis site, is that correct?
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw? And then motions 1 through 5 are what I see on the screen here. So there is disconnect. The conditions are the same as in the staff report, which is
Correct.
what Commissioner Truxell referred to. So I think we're okay.
Yeah, I
Gotcha.
agree.
Yeah, so
I just
the
want to make
correct
sure.
motion read, conditions in the staff report are correct, just the motion in the staff report is incorrect.
And he read the motion, so.
Good catch, Commissioner Shaw. I was looking and I thought maybe I grabbed the wrong thing, but good catch. With that said, Lori may have a roll call.
Commissioner Gaskell?
Yes.
Commissioner Lasciuto,
Yes.
Commissioner Manny,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Truxell,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion is carried. So Paul, this item will go to the village board on Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. Is that correct, Dan? Or is there?
It'll go May 17th, just 'cause, so
The drawing.
one extra meeting just
Okay.
because of the, they have to get the encroachment agreement addressed and
Okay.
bring those together at the same time.
Okay, so,
So on that, that last screen there, it does state on that, there, the height, minimum height requirements needed, so it was actually on that, number 3 there.
Yes.
It'd be 84 inches, that's what I thought, so.
yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll be in contact with you. It's, Kimberly will still talk to you about the encroachment agreement if we need to get some final stuff figured out to get that to the village board. And we'll both go May 17th.
Sounds good, thank you for
Okay,
your time.
thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time. Have a good night. With that, we'll move on to item 3. Item 3 is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Amir Ahmad, on behalf of Drip Drop Smokes, the tenant, a special use for a tobacco store at 17133 Harlem Avenue in the B3 General Business and Commercial Zoning District. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Lasciuto, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. I have received certification of the public hearing, a notice being published in the local newspaper. Anyone wishing to speak on the matter will be sworn in before they speak, but after the staff's presentation. So staff, if you could please make your presentation at this time.
So Drip Drop Smokes is proposing a tobacco store at the southeast corner of Harlem and 171st in a multi-tenant shopping center that has many tenants, most notably Jewel. Here's the aerial showing that, and the photo to the right is showing that small portion of the site for a 25-foot wide frontage tenant space that they'd like to go into. The space is currently vacant. Before that, it was occupied by Brow and Lash Studio. So for zoning, this is in the B3 zoning district, general business and commercial, so a relatively permissive zoning district. It is located on the east side of Harlem Avenue. The B3 extends up past 171st. Harlem, as we all know, is a heavily traveled, busy arterial. So on the other side of Harlem, we have a mix of other types of zoning, most notably B4 and B1 with a little bit of R1. To the south and east is R6 zoning, and just to note some of the, I know I mentioned Jewel, so the other tenants I noted in the staff report. This tenant specifically, this proposed tenancy would be between DuPage Medical Group and Rob's Aquatics. So as far as its relation to other types of uses, what the Village's Chapter 120 calls certain institutions, these are schools, child care facilities, any educational or recreational facilities for those under 18. It meets that code. There are none within 100 feet, none within that shopping center. So there are no existing tobacco stores in that shopping center as well. So the other thing to note, though, there is accessory sales of tobacco at Jewel. So next to point out is about the nature of the special uses per the zoning regulations. Here in the village, late last fall, the zoning ordinance amendment for making definitions of tobacco-related items and limiting their use to special uses was reviewed and approved. And tobacco store is defined in the code now as retail establishment that derives 65% or more of its gross revenue from the sale of tobacco products and alternative nicotine products, and in which the sale of other products is merely incidental. So these definitions help define more specifically the nature of the use. B2 and B3 are the only zoning districts in which a tobacco store could apply for a special use permit. They're prohibited elsewhere. So regarding the special use, we want to look at some concerns that were raised in the review of this text amendment from late 2021. Mainly, for special uses, we generally look at the unique nature of the use and the context of the area. So for something like tobacco stores, we would possibly want to consider avoiding any high concentration of tobacco stores that would be thus highly visible to the public and may limit other preferred by right uses in that area. And of course, to consider the relation to certain institutions for those under 18 years of age or younger. So here is a very basic floor plan of that 25-foot frontage. This is drawn so the image at the left, north is to the right. So the frontage faces Harlem. It's single customer access with employee access out the rear to the east, and to the right is an image of the survey. So in red is the outline of the tenant space. As far as use, the applicant provided in their narrative and confirmed with staff, some aspects of their operation and why they're looking at this area. So They want this area because simply there is not a concentration of tobacco stores in the area, and it is a heavily trafficked area, so, you know, that to them, that is preferable for this part of Tinley Park. As far as how the operations would work, as in most cases, the employees would verify the identification of everyone to ensure that they're 21 years of age or older, and per already existing regulations, no smoking will be allowed within the space or within 15 feet of it. No loiter, they will ensure that there's no loitering in the space. Hours 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. 2 employees, a manager, and a cashier. And they, as far as like what they anticipate for their traffic of people, it's pretty low, maybe 5 people maximum. And importantly, there's no changes to the site plan, architecture, landscaping, exterior lighting, any of that. They would eventually consider coming to the village for signage. Village staff has shared the sign code with them, and they anticipate that they will comply with code. So that concludes staff presentation. I have the standards up here on the screen, and our applicants are here in the audience.
Okay, thank you, Lori. And does the applicant have anything to add? Okay. So I'll just go to our commissioners. Commissioner Lusciuto, do you have any comments for discussion?
I have no comment.
Commissioner Gaskell?
Nothing from me.
Commissioner Truxell?
No comments. Looks like a good place to put a smoke shop.
I agree. Commissioner Manning?
Yes, no comment as well.
Commissioner Shaw?
I didn't see this in the staff report, and I wasn't able to recall it on my own, but I know they're down by 183rd and 80th Avenue, we have a concentration. Where's the nearest one to this location? I can't, and I guess my point is, I'm agreeing that there's not a concentration, and I was just trying to think of what the next nearest one, other than Jewel.
The applicant did have a couple of addresses that he is able to share with us. Amir,
Well,
like-
yeah, I didn't want to have to swear you in just for that.
I-
but-
Okay,
It's on 159th and Harlem, the closest one.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like,
Pretty far.
yeah, it's more on 159th there, and then I'm trying to think, there's like,
It's the one right by, right diagonally to the patio.
All right, sounds good.
and 183rd Street
that was-
might have a couple.
That was my only comment, is that I agree that there doesn't appear to be a concentration or even anything significantly close. And while Jewel is a accessory product line, I don't view that as real competition.
I concur with Commissioner Shaw. It seems like it's right in line with the ordinance that we looked at in November of 2021. And it's a good location. It is busy, and it's nice to see that those tenants don't remain empty, that they do get filled. So I think it checks all the boxes. The one thing I would, encourage, just because it was in the staff report, is that the proposed signage, or whatever proposed signage you guys do have, it must comply with the zoning ordinance. Other than that, I think it's a good fit. Those are my comments. So with that, does the applicant have anything to add at the time? Okay. So at this time, I will, is there anybody from the public wishing to speak on it? Okay. So at this time, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion made.
Second.
Okay, I heard a motion made by Commissioner Truxell, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Lori, if you go through the standards? Oh, sorry, all those in favor, closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Lori, if you can go through the standards.
Okay, thank you. So standards are up here on the screen. The first one is about the public health, safety, morals, comfort, general welfare. We find that the identification of customers will be verified to ensure that all purchases are made by those 21 years of age or older. Again, no smoking indoors or within 15 feet. And certain institutions that I mentioned before, schools, childcare, churches, other buildings for educational and recreational. Those under 18 none are adjacent to the proposed use, and no tobacco stores exist on the subject property. Secondly, regarding the use and enjoyment of others on the property, of other property in the area. The operation will be professional in nature and occur within the tenant space. The operation will not permit loitering, the store will be kept clean, and operation hours will occur from 9 AM to 10 PM. And then regarding the normal and orderly development, this is an existing building. No changes are proposed to the exterior of the site. This also addresses the standard after that regarding utilities. And then regarding traffic, operation will have a single frontage for customers and is anticipated to only generate traffic similar to other commercial and retail uses. And then regarding the other code requirements, the petitioners indicated they will meet those. And then lastly, the economic development is a retail business. They'll contribute revenue to the area, and it helps by filling an existing vacancy in the center.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Lori. At this time, I have a motion for the special use for this item.
I make a motion to recommend that the village board grant the petitioner Amir Ahmad on behalf of Drip Drop Smokes a special use permit to operate a tobacco store at 17133 Harlem Avenue in the B3 General Business and Commercial Zoning District according to the submitted plans and adopt the findings of fact as listed in the April 21st, 2022 staff report.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Lucido, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Lori, may I have a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Yes.
Commissioner Lucido.
Yes.
Commissioner Manny.
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw.
Yes.
Commissioner Truxell.
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. So Amir, this will go in front of the village board on May 3rd, 2022. So please attend, and you can get with staff on any more details. And good luck.
Thank you. We'll see you guys May 3rd.
Good
Okay.
night.
With that, we'll move on to our final item, item 4. It's a workshop to consider recommending that the village board amend certain sections of the zoning ordinance to carry over portions of the current building code into the zoning ordinance where they are better served. Regulations include driveway location, driveway width, storage shed size, accessory storage structure locations, and other miscellaneous regulations. Staff, please make your presentation at this time.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm not gonna dive into every detail of this since you guys had it in your packets. Let's go with 95% of this is literally taking what's in the building code. We're not gonna change any regulations we're really changing in town, we're just changing where it goes. And now you guys might get a variation for a driveway or something. It was more in the building code, but they're really things that are more regularly in a zoning code that deal more with location of accessory structures or driveways, things like that. So for the most part, it's just, I had a little Excel spreadsheet that kind of broke down what was in the building code and where we're moving at, and what it's gonna say. The biggest thing that's not in there for transparency purposes is driveway maximum widths, and we kind of clarify a little bit more with driveways. There's almost no regulation currently with driveways, which has become problematic. We have some ways to kind of combat it if we have drainage issues or things like that. But most communities our size, suburban communities, will have some limits to driveways. We've had some weird situations where people tear down a garage, they then build it on the other side of their yard, don't want to move their curb cut, so they angle a driveway across their front yard so we just kind of get weird situations like that because they don't want to rebuild their apron, it's cheaper, or whatever the case may be. So you wish some of this wouldn't have to be in there, but some of it's just kind of clarification, putting a maximum width so that way your entire front yard can't be paved and you call it a driveway. It's got to lead to a structure. You can't just start pouring driveways all over your property. And then,
Don't we have minimum green space requirements?
We don't. So we have a maximum lot coverage, but it's very specific to only be the principal and accessory structures. So we don't have a maximum like impervious surface coverage. Some communities have that, but it's really, really hard to regulate because somebody comes in for a shed, then you go to their from a, a permit perspective, you go, give me the dimensions of every impervious surface on your lot. And most people don't have an updated survey like that. So it can get really, really tough to actually do that in real life. Not to say there's not a purpose behind it, but some communities do that, but I've seen the ones I know sometimes walk it back because it gets so difficult to have somebody pour a patio that, that residents go, why do I need to go out there and then measure all my walkways? And you're sitting there with a ruler scaling every single survey. So we don't have that. We do have maximum lot coverage, but again, just principal structures and accessory. So that's the gist of it. So this is just the workshop. So if you guys had any other questions, you can throw them at me. I don't want to walk through each thing. Like I said, most of it's just kind of we're just moving it from one
Where did all
place.
the stuff that the zoning board of appeals handled go? I'm just curious, because,
To you guys, it's still all in our zoning code. So like
we
fences,
just haven't had any?
correct, next meeting you'll have 2 fences.
Oh, I had to
So,
ask.
so, yeah, shouldn't have asked. So it's coming to you guys. I typically, just in general, I mean, we discourage variations, right? Unless
Yeah.
you need it, you really shouldn't be asking for it, so.
Well,
Some of that is
And
us
also, you've
telling
done a lot
people
of
that.
work to analyze the common requests and the ones that commonly get approved and, over the years, made some adjustments, right?
Yep, and we
To
listen
give you some
if-
administrative leeway.
If you guys all go, look, we're gonna grant this variation, and by the way, staff, look at this code. We take that into account, right? We have a lot of stuff we're doing, but eventually we'll get to it if we see something reoccurring or we hear from either the plan commission or the village board, hey, take a look at this, relook at it, make some changes. So and we did that, we did that with the fence code. We even upped the height of the fence because it didn't align with our pool fence requirements. So we made that change a couple of years ago. So little tweaks like that we can make to kind of help align it and avoid those. Corner fences will never go away though. I think I've just accepted that in my career is there's no perfect method of regulating corner fences in most communities. Because it's aesthetic. There's some safety and visual part of it, but it's mostly an aesthetic feature. So you're regulating aesthetics and trying to keep that consistent, even though you have a lot of different areas in town that have all developed differently. So it's just kind of hard. So these would be seen by you guys now. We're in the reason for this is we're doing a full revamp of our building codes. So we kind of had our own little separate building code, which is the Tinley Park Comprehensive Building Code. That's not the way most communities do it. You adopt kind of the international codes and then you just have a separate list of, here's our local amendments to those codes. We had this whole separate code that had almost way too much in it. So our building officials done a really good job. We're one of the first communities around here to go to the 2021 building codes. So we're taking a big jump from 2012 all the way to 2021. And then he's going through and kind of doing it a little more standard. So this was just a good opportunity to take these things, instead of having these be amendments to the building code, move them where they should be. So if somebody wants a 80-foot wide driveway, they're gonna be coming before you guys now. And maybe they have a really unique situation. Maybe they have the widest lot in the village and it makes sense, right? So it makes more sense to have you as a plan commission review those than the building codes would actually go to like the village board to look at those, which doesn't make too much sense. So.
Dan, I did notice some typos for the proposed text. To correct them, and then for, section 211, for private detached garages, page 34, the proposed text, it says the maximum floor area shall be 7, and there's a D missing in 100.
Okay, are you talking the Excel spreadsheet?
Yes, the Excel,
Okay.
yeah.
So we'll ignore that because there's probably a bunch in there. I didn't do all the writing and then Excel.
Fair
doesn't
enough.
like to
I
spell
found a
check.
few,
But I do have like the drafted text, so I will go through that. I caught plenty looking at
oh,
it.
sure.
during
I'm sure
the-
spell check will actually get those.
So I'm not copying from this, but I do have like the red line version and with the packet, which is in Word and is spelled correctly. So,
I wanted clarification too on the other accessory structure limits where you said the existing text shows not existing currently. And then the proposed is no more than one of any type of residential accessory structure shall be permitted except where a second detached garage may be permitted in section, I3, or 3I3. So we're gonna limit to 2 garages, one, it says second detached. Does that mean you can have 2 detached garages?
If, you could have 3 garages, and that's our code right now.
Okay.
So if you had an attached garage in your lot, so if you meet all those requirements and there's a lot, your lot has to be wide enough and big enough, and then you still have to meet all the setbacks. You theoretically could have 3 garages. You could have
Okay.
2 720 square foot detached and an attached garage, which could be as big as you can make it with meeting the structure setbacks.
And you could actually have, like, you could say your neighbor,
And you could have a shed.
your neighbor leaves, or you bought your neighbor's property, you demo their house, and that's a different PIN, that's a different lot, right? So would that be under different scrutiny?
So you can't have an accessory structure without a principal structure. So if they demoed the house, consolidated the lots,
Yeah.
they could then put a garage on that side. And if the lot was wide enough, then you could potentially get 2. I forget exactly what that
Okay.
width was in that code, but that's
Okay.
kind of how it sits now, is you can have 2 detached garages, but you have to meet certain standards.
Okay.
to have-
So that'd be an incentive to consolidate the lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it hasn't always been that way, so there are existing situations where somebody's built their garage on a separate lot,
Yeah.
but it's not good because that lot then sells and we're immediately in non-conformance with both properties usually.
And
We don't do that anymore because we've actually, I was gonna say, Paul bought a lot that just had, Paul Spaz bought a lot in town that just had a garage on it, and he's gonna build a house on it, but in the meantime, we have like this non-conforming situation.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I know this is kind of more of an informal discussion, but I'll just go down. Any comments, Commissioner Lasciuto?
No comments.
Commissioner Gaskell?
No comment.
Commissioner Shaw, any more comments?
No,
Commissioner Manny?
none for me.
Commissioner Truxell?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Okay, and I have no more comments other than what I said, so.
Okay. And this is just the workshop, so if you guys, we still have the public hearing, so if there's anything that comes up in the meantime, you can either let me know in the meantime, or bring it up at the public hearing, but
Was
it's
there,
helpful because I can adjust the text.
other than, obviously you're gonna go through and punch it up, look for typos and all that, in terms of significant content changes, are you anticipating any more between now and the next time?
I'd love to, there's other stuff we need to clean up. I kind of did my few tweaks here with the driveway and the limiting accessory. You could have 12 greenhouses now, all 720 square feet. Nothing in our code clearly states you can't. We've interpreted it that way. So we're just clarifying the way it's been interpreted all these years. I'd love to clean up other stuff, but it would take a little more analysis, and I think if we're gonna make some significant changes to the zoning code, I wanna be able to show you guys, here's what's currently allowed, here's what we're doing. Maybe dive into it a little more. The reason why I have it here is it's mostly existing minus the driveway discussion.
Right.
So no, this'll be what's
Okay.
in that text.
So this time around, this is mostly an exercise in lift and shift.
Yeah, I did my few tweaks though, just kind of the most egregious stuff that we've seen. Yeah. Get a little more teeth in it.
And I've seen in another, actually in a township where somebody had put down brick pavers adjacent to both sides of their existing driveway, and then came in front of the plan commission there and, feigned ignorance or said the code was silent. So you may have people that if it's not explicitly stating, well, my driveway is 30 feet or 40 feet, the pavers add another 20 feet this way, but they're not really my driveway. So I don't know if you need to, although you specify, I think the materials were concrete and asphalt, right? So,
Yeah, and we allow pavers with approval from the village engineer.
okay.
But now we have, the driveway has to lead to an accessory structure kind of directly. It's the maximum width, then it would have to be something, right? So
Right.
you can't have it be, they're just pavers, so is it a patio then? Patios aren't allowed in the front yard, so I feel comfortable with what we have here
Okay.
would limit that. So,
I'm just saying, I've seen some people try to get creative
oh, yeah.
on what's said and what is not said, so.
I
you
know. But that's why I'm doing some of the cleanup. There's some other stuff, like I said, as we get time, and maybe it'll be Charles' next project, because I got a lot already, I think we've thrown at him, but there's a lot of text amendment stuff that we could clean up here.
Okay.
In a perfect world, you'd almost like, our zoning code's from 1978, so it's, some of the stuff's just outdated or antiquated terms in there. Preferably you just rewrite the whole thing, but that takes a lot of time and effort, and so we're just gonna ad hoc try and make it better, make it fit as we go, so.
Okay, so, but you have your information from us to proceed with your drafting of that ordinance to reflect the amendments?
Yep.
Okay.
It'll be at the next, plan commission meeting. or
Okay, so
public hearing.
the public hearing will be on the May 5th, 2022 Plan Commission meeting. Okay, excellent. We'll move on to the good of the order. Staff, do you have anything to present for the good of the order?
Not too much. I'll say goodbye and thank you again to Commissioner Lasciuto. Did that last meeting, but this is his last one, so thanks for your volunteerism and service here. Besides that, Ascend was approved by the village board, the cannabis dispensary. That's about all I got. There's a lot of, I know we have a grand opening coming up. Papa's Popcorn has a grand opening coming up, I believe, the first week in May. So follow their Facebook. I think they'll have more details on that. But they have their sign up. They're getting really close to opening there. Floor and Decor as well, I think, is looking at first week in May. So they're cleaning up the outside. They have some pavement work to do, but for the most part, the inside's stocked. The interior work's finished, so it's just cleaning up the exterior and be good to go. That's all I have.
Okay, I'll take this opportunity to say thanks and goodbye and good luck to Commissioner Frank Lasciuto. Frank, I always enjoyed your input at these meetings, and they always came from a sense of a place of common sense. And whether I agreed or not, you made a point that I could understand and appreciate where it was coming from. So you will be missed, and good luck.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yep.
I didn't know you, Frank.
You too.
With that, we'll look to receive comments from the public. Hearing none, because there is none here. We'll move on to adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I mean, sorry, the meeting. So moved. Okay, a second?
Yes.
Okay, so Commissioner Shaw, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried. This meeting is adjourned at 8:30. Good night, everybody.